My name is Daniel Vargas. I work as a 3D animator here in ShiftPixy, and one of my duties here is create the animated clips for the video games. This is Rombo. Let me present you. Basically, the first animation that I try to create for Rombo is an animation that gives me the sensation of who he is, how he's gonna behave, how is his energy, how old he is, and how he's gonna interact with his ambient. So we need to do this in order to be very believable. Basically, it's a 3D mesh that is controlled by a 3D skeleton. It's like a puppeteer, you know? You create the joints, you create how it's gonna be rotating the arms, the knees, the feet, and all the elements, and the bones basically control how the mesh, how every vertex is gonna behave when the skeleton moves. The first animation that I tried to do is an idle animation that could tell the audience how that character think, how that character behave, and how it's gonna interact with his environment. So it's very important to have a visual idea how his body language and his energy is gonna tell us that first test how the character is gonna be presented. Okay, here I have a few clips that I have already animated. This is the first idle animation. Basically, the character is standing and looking around, and we could see how we see in his look, by the way he looks around, how he's thinking, you know, how he's gonna be sneaky, like a very smart character. He's got a lot of energy, so he's gonna be running and hitting obstacles. And let me show you this part. Once I have a clear animation, one of the first things that I like to do is creating a walk cycle. This walk cycle is gonna give us that sensation how that character is gonna be behaving, and you could see by the body language how it feels. It's very confident. Going further, I'm gonna show you the character most of the time is gonna be running, because this is gonna be a running game. And while he's running, he's gonna be facing a few obstacles. He's gonna be facing a few little chickens, and he's gonna be swinging his pan. He has a big pan. He's gonna take it out, and he's gonna punch. For this part, we have a technical challenge, because in the 3D world is very limited, because we have the structure, we have the bones. But if we look back in the past, in the 2D animation world, the 2D animation is more flexible. You could create more elements in the air. You could deform things in certain frames, and that way, deforming object, deforming character, one solid character could become smoke or water or anything in 2D. It's very powerful in 2D. And some of that flexibility that comes from the traditional 2D animation, we wanted to bring it to the 3D world. Even though we have very technical software, we try to bend that technology in order to serve the art. One of the things that we create here, let me show you. This is the first version of the hit of the character. That character is doing the anticipation. I'm going to slow down a little bit to show you. That character is doing the anticipation motion, just in order to show the audience that he's going to create a big swing. And from one frame to another, he already made the swing. You could see how strong it is. It's very appealing. It's very nice to see. But we could take it a little further. We could do more. We could explain more. With further testing, we create a secondary version. Now we have some smear motion. I create a secondary pan that is deformed, and basically is a copy of this object, completely deformed, giving the shape of the secondary ghost of that feeling of the motion. And you could tell by comparison with the first version, this one looks so much better. But we want to create more live sensation, so we try to go even further with this. Let me show you. In this part, this is another version that we did. And this one give us a more clear sensation of the hit. You can see how powerful he's gonna hit the obstacle. and he's more appealing in the way he acts. I'm gonna show you a little more in depth how we achieve this. Let me hide this. Okay, let me prepare the software first. Okay, this is the first version that we create. Well, the first version didn't have any smear at all, but for this secondary version, basically what I did was make a copy of the pan at that moment. And once I have this secondary pan, I'm gonna hide this too. Once I have this copy, I'm gonna deform this object. And just for that frame, I'm gonna make a modification. You can see this is like a sculpture, and I could create a nice copy, more cartoony style, but you see how powerful it is to deform something just for one frame. This is more like a craftsman kind of art, because you have to tweak it frame by frame, and it's very appealing because it's worth it. Right now, the first version that we create 2 secondary pans, and it only shows in one specific frame right here. Right now, there is no secondary pans, but in one frame, these 2 elements appear in 100% scale, while in the frame before was in 0%. So I'm basically playing like a stop motion. In one frame you don't see it, and next frame you see it, and I make a small deformation from one frame to another. So you could tell if I play back the 2 versions. I have this version here. Let me open the first version and put it side by side, and you can tell how it feels. One hitting, you could understand it, but this one feels more flowy, it's more lifelike, and this is what we're aiming for. And taking this same concept, taking it further, we did a third option. For this third option, let me set up the program in the way that I want it. We established a new deformation object, and you could see here right now I have an object, and this object is a normal plane, doesn't have any special on it yet, and I have subdivided, and each subdivision I'm gonna be controlling each subdivision with a different bones. And this set of bones has something special because I create 2 different controls, one from this end and the other one for the secondary end. So when this object get deformed and get controlled by these 5 different bones, I'm going to be able to control where this object, the geometry, is going to start moving, and when the other geometry is going to start moving as well. I could play with the rotation. I could play with how it started, how it began. Put it on the same spot, and I could make it longer or shorter depending on my needs. It's pretty cool, this effect. I create different controller for each one of the bones, and basically I'm telling each controller you're gonna move a percentage of what this controller is gonna move. 20%, 40%, 60, 80%. So that is gonna give me more flexibility. I don't have to pay attention to each individual vertex. I could control only the first and last position, and it's gonna be following that path. Once we develop this rig, you could see how flexible it is. It's gonna look very nice. We face another problem with this, because when I try to put it on Unity, I have to be very aware about the scaling. If I scale something negative, it's gonna be on the other side. So sometimes playing with the scales is gonna give me some little problem further the line on Unity. What I create with this, in this case, to overcome that problem, basically I select the object in that specific moment and I create a duplicate. So the best option for me in this case in particular was creating a copy of the effect itself and froze it in time, and just showing like a stop motion technique by one frame at a time. So in this frame you're going to show this element, I'm going to hide it in the next frame, and I'm going to present to you another frame, another object. It's going to look and it's going to appear like it's a moving, continuous, deforming object, but it's not. It's going to be 3 different objects with different size, with different proportions. It's going to be showing different moments. So it's a lighter option, We prefer it like that, and yeah, it's working pretty nice. One of the things that I decided to fix it that way, creating copies and make it like completely froze geometry, is because it's a lighter option for Unity. It's better if we have a lighter option for Unity running in the phones or any older phones as well. It's better to have it like a very light version. So this complex rig, sometimes when you export it, those exporting option doesn't allow this kind of constraint. Okay, let me show you the third version in comparison with the first version. That way you could see and feel the difference between one animation without any effect on top and another animation with effect on top. You could see it's the same motion, it's the same timing, it's the same spacing, but here you feel it more alive, more energetic, more like a living creature. For this kind of effect, is usually you see this kind of effect mostly in the 2D animation tradition, and the principles is very powerful concept to have something on the air that deform. You could tell and give more energy, and you could tell you could see it in the old cartoonists. You could see how one character changed direction from one side to another, or he's gonna point it, or he's gonna hit something, or he's doing an action that is really quick. You could see by frozen the frame, you could see some moments the object or the character itself is gonna get deformed. When you get that deformation on the character, you will feel like that character is more alive. It's not like a motion capture feeling where you feel something is robotic. We need to give life here. We need to connect with this character. So while we could implement those little 2D tricks from the past to the new technology, I think it's the best way to communicate.